Boston's problems with race relations roared back into the headlines this month, challenging the notion that much has changed. You remember a few weeks back when Orioles player Adam Jones said he was taunted by a fan using the N-word. And the next night, a man was removed from the park after making a racist remark about a Kenyan woman singing the national anthem. Last week, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh announced the second stage of citywide conversations to identify and help close racial gaps. And given the data, we have some work to do. The Black Economic Council of Massachusetts found the number of white homeowners compared to black homeowners in Boston is more than double. Also true of the unemployment rate for black residents compared to white. And when it comes to net assets, black families hold on average $700, compared with the average $256,000, which white families average. And all of this contributes to Boston's ranking as among the worst cities in the country in terms of income inequality. Next Sunday is the annual Metro Boston Race Amity Day Festival, now part of the larger statewide Race Amity Day, aimed at celebrating diversity. Joining me are Boston's Chief Resilience Officer, Atia Martin. Nice to see you, Atia. And William Smitty Smith, the Executive Director of the National Center for Race Amity at Wheelock College. Smitty, it's good to see you, too. Thanks for being here.
It's good to be here.
Is your starting point, and yours and the mayor's, that racism is real in the city or that people think it exists in the city? What's the starting point?
Oh, that it's very real, and not just in Boston, but in every place in this country.
Well, but you're not responsible for
That's
every place, so let's stay in Boston.
Yes, sir.
What exactly are you doing? I read there are 20 meetings or coordinators in 17 distinct neighborhoods. What does that mean? What are you going to be doing?
So we're actually going to be training a cadre of initial group of 20 facilitators to help with citywide dialogues. Leading up to this point, we've been doing a more learning series, which has been really working with partners within the community, arts and cultural, to do kind of baseline understanding of racism, how it works, and how it's impacting our community.
So let's assume at the end of the meetings they're successful by those standards.
Yes, sir.
They do understand better. They do work together better. How does that change the fact that that average black family's got $700 in assets and the average white family has $250,000? How does that change anything?
So I think fundamentally what many folks don't understand is the longer term history of how we got to the inequities that we see today. And many people don't understand that it's not just individual behavior that has led to these disparate outcomes. It's actually a long history of policies and practices that have gotten us here, both at the federal, state,
so
and
the goal
levels.
is ultimately change the policies too.
So there's policies, there's these conversations, but also making sure that we're on the same page about how this works.
Are they on the right track, Smitty, or are they not?
Well, I'm not in judgment of that, quite frankly. My concern is about the human relationship aspect,
what does that mean?
Which I think is at the root of a lot of the issues, well, all of the issues that we deal with in terms of race and race relations. And our work with Atia's office on this Metro Boston Race Amity celebration.
What is it?
Is an opportunity. It's a festival of the human spirit where people come from all over the city, from diverse neighborhoods and groups, to have an afternoon of fun, respect, of recognizing one another and appreciating one another's cultures. So this is a sort of a real personification of some of the verbiage. In other words, the mayor, when Atia and I talked about this in planning to work together on this event, the mayor said this is a sanctuary city. People can sleep in City Hall, which is great. But how about having people together in a community across racial lines?
But let me ask the same question I asked Atia. How does that, I mean, for example, Massport, in my mind, is doing a wonderful thing with their contracting. They're not anymore saying you got to hire so many people of color. What they're saying is a certain percentage of the firms that win contracts have to be owned by people of color. That's a concrete policy that will change something without disparaging at all this notion of people getting to know each other, relating better. How does that get us from this mess to
easy.
The fix?
The way it gets there is quite easy, is that what we have to recognize is at the core of these advances, even the policy that you're talking about, you will find, and if you give me an opportunity at some time to do it, I'll find the close cross-racial, cross-cultural relationship that's responsible for that policy. It's about people and relationships. That is how these changes come about. So you can state the results, but in terms of statistics, but it's about our relationships and how we interact and how people feel.
Well, I hear both of you. I know the intent is great, and I hope you're successful. But it seems to me you guys are climbing such an uphill thing. It's sort of like one step forward you hope, and then there's some racist in center field or a racist in right field, and it's 50 steps back. So you can change the mindset in a community. You can have Massport replicated by these relationships. But if there's still individuals acting responsibly, somebody in Ohio is going to say, I'm not moving to Boston because they're a bunch of racists. How do you ever deal with that, Smitty?
But I think, first of all, that's the wrong perception
Why?
of that person who's making that remark. Because I don't think one person can take us 50 steps back. I think there are a lot of those one people everywhere. What we've got to look at is how we interact and what image we project as a larger community. And so if we combat those actions through more positive actions, I think Boston, quite frankly, in terms of somebody from Ohio and New England, sadly, because of its actually relatively good legacy in terms of race relations, suffers from a disorder of people having expectations.
Well, let's not go
that
to
happened
Ohio.
in Boston.
We only have
Yeah.
60, so let's go to Cedric Maxwell, who was a star Celtics player. He said on TV the other night, the Celtics are going to have trouble getting free agents because of what happened to Adam Jones in center field.
And there's two pieces to this. I think the research has been incredibly explicit around what are some concrete things that we can do in order to help address the racial implicit bias that we all hold. And one of the key ways to do that is cross-racial relationships, so that people can see beyond the stereotypes, can see people for truly who they are, not the boxes that we've put people in. And I think this idea of how about Boston's image, we do have work to do on that. And I think helping folks understand that Boston is predominantly people of color. Many people don't know that about Boston.
Majority minority city.
And so there's lots of opportunities there for us in how we talk about the city, how we celebrate our diversity, and the work that we're doing to not just celebrate our diversity, but to make concrete policy and cultural shifts within communities and organizations.
We got to go. I hope you'll join us on the radio so we can have a longer discussion.
Most
It's great to
definitely.
see you.
I hope so.
It's a
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank
Thanks
you.
so
Good
much.
to see you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
your time and your work.